So you're thinking about selling final expense in person. Well, as an agency owner since 2013 in the final expense face-to-face market, I've got 10 tips for you to maximize your success at selling final expense in person. These are 10 tips that will help you get the most out of the business to avoid the common pitfalls that new agents selling final expense face-to-face experience. So let's begin. My name is David DeFord. I own DeFord Insurance Group. If you'd like to see what we do at DeFord Insurance Group, go to daviddeford.com. Our specialty is in mentoring agents to become top producers, not just in face-to-face final expense sales, but also telesales. So go to daviddeford.com, click the testimonial section for case studies, testimonials from satisfied and thrilled agents in DeFord Insurance Group, as well as click the FAQ button to learn more about who we are looking for as candidates to join. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So the first tip here, and again, none of these tips are in any particular order of importance. This is just kind of a brain dump, if you will, of different character traits, things that I've seen along the way that I think make the difference between those who are very successful and those who are just mediocre. So number one, this may sound a little strange to some of you, but really the biggest thing I think that you all could do and really put your effort in is the hard work side of this business. Yes, sales skills do matter when you sell final expense face-to-face, but you have to have the work ethic necessary to be successful. And some people just don't frankly have it, even though they have the skill set. Again, I've recruited agents since 2013, and some of the agents who are very successful have had sales success in the past, but many of them aren't. In fact, one of my best agents, Mr. Ryan Lodi, at the time he was with me, I think in his first year wrote $400,000 full-time in final expense premium. This was back in like 16 or 17, can't quite remember when. He was flipping burgers before this, literally at like 19 or 20 years old. So for me, it's not so much about your background, your resume, your pedigree. It really comes down to taking what we teach and putting into massive action. Again, your sales experience or sales skills matter really very little, I think, as opposed to the hard work. So when we say hard work, how do you mean? Well, for me, in my mind, it's all about doing more than the bare minimum, going the extra mile, the extra 110% or extra 10%, 110% is what you need to be doing in order to get the most out of the business. Now, how does that translate? Well, it translates into the little things, right? It's just doing a little bit more about everything that you do. So the agent that goes out there and has been crushed the whole day by, just the normal day-to-day experiences, right? People are going to tell us no, it's sales after all. And they're tempted to quit and call it a day and go home and watch Netflix instead. The agent that ignores the noise and the discouragement in their head, but then continues to door knock and does that day in, day out is going the extra mile. The agent that puts in the extra effort to make the extra phone call, to set the appointment, is going the extra mile. And it's the continuation of this strategy, this hard work strategy, as I would call it, that really makes the incredible difference in the business. And we'll see people who are just, they're good, they're okay at sales. Maybe there are better salespeople out there, but where they're absolutely excellent at is on the hard work arena. And that's probably the only reason that I was successful in this business. I'm pretty good at sales, but the one thing that I always committed to in the very beginning was I was going to outwork everybody. There were times when I was running 30, 40 appointments a week. And I knew intuitively that if I could just keep the effort and the intensity of the execution of the strategy at high levels for long periods of time, that I would eventually outstrip my competition, because that's where people falter. There is no secret sales skills. There's certainly things you can learn to help improve your overall results. But the hardest thing to teach is the consistent execution of working really hard, door knocking, setting appointments, running more appointments, staying ahead of yourself and your mindset. Those are the characteristics that truly make the difference in this business. And if you can embody those as a new agent selling face-to-face, in the matter of time, you're going to outstrip everybody as far as your results. And not just outstrip as far as how much you make, but the consistency and length of which you do. And that's really what matters in this business. Number two on the list is leads are your life source. So I was talking to an agent this morning, Alec, a new agent who's been writing a good bit of business. We did an interview. You'll see him on a future broadcast. And one of the things he said to me that he said was impactful in one of my videos is that, Dave, you teaching that this is a business is really important. It kind of changes your mindset versus this is just a job. And I thought that was a very important thing to make a distinction of. And more specifically, that businesses need to be thought of as different than as an employee. One of those is that you have to invest your money. You have to invest your money in your business, no matter what you're running, in order for it to run at the optimal capacity that it can. And in the direct sales business of final expense in-person sales, the lifeblood of your business is leads. It's people to see. And without leads, you have no business. Very much like a restaurant that doesn't have staff or doesn't have food ingredients to, give you the dishes that you buy as the client. If the restaurant doesn't have that, then is it really a restaurant that's a business? No. Likewise, as a face-to-face final expense agent, you're going to have to invest in leads. Investing in leads is how you find people to talk to, and it's how you have an opportunity to close business and make money for yourself. Real quick on leads, what are the best sources of leads? We actually just did a broadcast on that. It should publish on YouTube. Eventually, you'll see it if it isn't already out. We like in the face-to-face final expense arena, direct mail leads is the first choice. And then if for some reason you can't get direct mail because they're too expensive, or you don't have the money to wait around on the leads to come back, then Facebook leads are a great second alternative as long as you buy from a good vendor. I do also like seminar marketing for face-to-face agents. That's where we go into a senior living center, talk to the activity director, and then come back in a couple of weeks and do a small group seminar to about 5 to 15 people, and then create high intent interest from those prospects turns into leads, and then close a couple of sales is typically the average. If you are here live because you're in the insurance sales success training site, if you look under the classroom section, this course on seminar marketing used to keep it private, used to sell it for like $500. It's now entirely for free. You can access the exact same system that I've taught my agents for years. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you go to daviddufour.com/ISS, you can register for a free account on the site and then get access to the seminar marketing. It's a great way to find prospects. So bottom line, leads are your life source. You don't go into this business without knowing how you're going to generate leads. And woe be unto those who don't, because if you don't have leads, you don't have a final expense business. Number 3 on the list here, and this is really interesting. Part of this business is learning how to best convert business into, or prospects into business, right? But not all aspects of the prospecting and sales process are equal. There are some parts of your presentation, likewise, some parts of your just sales process overall, that are more important to practice, develop, and get better at than others. And what really matters more than anything as a face-to-face agent is this: your ability to get in the door, your skill set, and how well you develop that is arguably exponentially more important than your presenting skills. So I repeat, your ability to display yourself in a confident manner, to overcome objections at the door or on the phone, is more important than how well you go through your presentation. It's not to say that your presentation isn't important, but think about it like this. You may be Tony Robbins, you may be Mr. Charismatic, but if you can't get in the door to even deliver a presentation, how much does your great presentation matter, right? So the most important thing every new final expense face-to-face agent needs to focus on is being and getting great at door knocking, at overcoming objections at the door to get into the house to present. It's also getting good at setting appointments by phone to see the prospect at a later time or day. Getting good at those two skill sets really magnifies your capability to be successful when you're in the home. My dad used to own a business called Duchem in the chemical business. He sold out to Ecolab. And when I started my business, personal training, many years ago, 15, 20 years ago, before I got to final expense, I asked Dad, I said, so what's like the number one piece of advice you would give like a salesperson in order to, like, if you think about how to develop themselves to get the most success? He said, Dave, half the battle, more than half the battle, is won by getting in the door. He, in other words, would teach his sales reps, and this is a guy who sold his business out at a young age of 49. He would teach his sales reps that it's just getting in an audience with, in this case, the the production manager or the plant manager, getting in the door. If he could just do that, that's where the magic happens, is just seeing people. And that's how he was as successful as he was, starting with just himself and moving on to, I think, several hundred employees at one point in the future. So more of the story is, as we think about being good at final expense, it's not just a presentation you should be focusing on. You should also focus on prospecting, appointment setting, and door knocking, or your door knocking presentation, and getting really good at that. If you were to join DeFord Insurance Group, a lot of our time in that first week that we do one-on-one mentorship and role playing is focused on the door knock. It's focused on the appointment setting call and getting really, really, really good at those, because we know as people running our organization, that's how we're going to get paid, if we can just get you in front of more people at the kitchen table. Number 4 on the list here is confidence and presentation is key. Now, of course, we all know you got to be confident, you got to sound confident, right? But here's the thing. It's not just a mannerism. It's kind of a belief system. It's a way in which that you speak to the client. The best piece of advice that I could give you all is, as you go through the process of presenting and you're in the door or at the door or on the phone with your client, you need to say things in such a way that you are presumptive. This is probably a piece of advice I wish I would have taken years ago as a new agent, and then even as an experienced agent, is acting as if the deal was going to close no matter what. And then, more importantly, reflecting that belief, acting as if, in everything that I said. There's something powerful about being presumptive. So I'll give you an example. When we set an appointment, we don't ask permission of the client. Hey, can I come over tomorrow at 2 o'clock? Because there's an option to say no. In some sense, it sounds like you're not confident when you ask for that. So instead of asking a yes/no question, we teach our agents to ask yes/yes questions. So I'm going to be over tomorrow at 10 o'clock, or does 2 sound better? There's a sense of confidence in that, because now that the way that that question is phrased by design is more confident, because I'm giving them a choice of a yes or a yes. I'm not assuming that no is an option, right? And that little thought process you can find throughout the presentation. There are things that we want to suggest. Like, when you take out this new policy, you're going to have peace of mind knowing that your loved ones are protected. Notice I didn't say if you took out this policy, when you take out this policy with me. And these are things that you can pepper throughout your presentation, where it's already happening in front of you through your demeanor and representation of what you're presenting, that the policy is already consummated. It's already there. And even before you close and assume to close, you've already assumed that they're buying it. And what happens is, when clients listen to that, is that they see themselves owning it. They already kind of see themselves in that position. They're more and becoming more accepting of the eventual reality that they're going to buy from you when you use an assumptive, confident style language. The turnoff for me, and why I didn't do this for a long time, is that I sounded kind of, I always felt like arrogant. It was kind of my concern. I never wanted to sound arrogant or pushy. That was for years, kind of my perspective with this language pattern. But I realized, in listening to agents' calls for many years and having conversations with other salespeople in the business, that it actually doesn't sound arrogant. It sounds confident. And if you don't sound confident, then what your clients may take you as is being unconfident or unsure about yourself. And they don't understand that you're just trying to be polite. They may be taking it as, hey, this guy isn't convicted in what it is that you're selling. And so they may lose faith in what it is that you're trying to do. I've had salespeople over here that have sold other products like glass windows, et cetera. And they ask for forgiveness in a certain way about being a salesperson. They almost sound as if they're not convinced, that they're okay to sound like, that they're not confident. And it shows. And it makes me think, do I want to do business with this person? So there's this, it's an interesting dynamic, but what you want to do as you start getting into the business is observing how and what your language patterns actually are. Are they confident language patterns? Or are they language patterns that cause doubt? And you may be trying to be polite, but it's seen by the prospect as being unsure. And people don't want to buy from people who aren't convicted, right? So you have to act as if. Number 5 on the list here, and this is a good goal to have. Actually, this is the goal to have as a full-time final expense face-to-face agent, is you must complete 15 appointments every single week. I didn't create this number. I picked this up from an old school agent, Travis Tubbs, who then I found out that the 15 presentations a week for face-to-face agents, just in any insurance agents, has been around for decades. I read it in an old book from like the 80s or 70s. And the idea is very simple. There's no data for this, although I'm sure it would kind of pan out in our favor. But if you can do 15 final expense face-to-face appointments every week, what you tend to find happen with those agents who commit to that number of appointments weekly is that there's a lot better stability in production week to week to week. But if they fall under 15 appointments, even like 12, 10 or less, as a full-time agent, there's a lot more ebb and flow. There's weeks where there's nothing, there's weeks when there's something, but there's not that consistent outcome of presentations or policies sold. So if you're doing this part-time, you should just duplicate what others have told you they have seen success from, one of which is this 15 presentations a week thing. Are there agents that make a lot of money with less presentations? Sure. But again, one of the things you want to do coming into this business from a mindset standpoint is assume the worst. Assume you're not the best agent since sliced bread. Assume you're just like, okay. And if you're just an okay agent, a mediocre agent, well, the only way you can make up for that is doing more work. It's studying and practicing harder, right? So that's why you want to take this 15 appointment process and make it the standard operating procedure for each week that you're selling final expense in person. I would even take it a step further. Don't shoot for the minimum. 15 is the minimum. Shoot for 20 or more. If you shoot for 20, right, you're shooting for the stars, but you're ending up hitting the moon, right? So even if you don't get 20 and you do around 15 or a few more, you're still within that buffer of acceptable production that consistently produces outcomes on a much more consistent basis. Number 6 on the list here, very, very important. A lot of new agents mess this up. Well-meaning agents that want to get results, more results, setting appointments, seeing your prospects in person or working at the door. And it's this: when you're on the phone or you're knocking on the door, don't sell the product, sell the appointment. You see, ladies and gentlemen, when you're selling final expense, there's something about being inside at the kitchen table in the prospect's home that allows you to get into a presentation and to explain things in more detail without as much suspicion as you will receive if you're selling or if you're at the phone or in person at the door trying to sell the product. So let me give you an example of what I mean. So a lot of the times when you're setting an appointment or you're at the door and you're doing your script, the client's going to say something like, well, how much does this cost? You can't give them that information. Not because if you do, you'll just lose a sale, because anytime you give a price too early, there's not room for value. The other issue with giving price too early is you just don't know if the client can even qualify for what it is that you're selling. You don't know anything about their health. You don't know anything about what it is they're trying to accomplish. And you offering a price is selling them short. So what do you do when you hear an objection like price? You can't sell the product and create a price. So what do? Well, you have to observe that what you're hearing at the door is pushback in the sense of just sales resistance. They're not necessarily interested in getting the price right now. They're just worried. The prospect is just worried about being in an awkward sales presentation where they may feel pressured to buy something that they're not 100% sure that they can commit to. And of course they feel this way. You're showing up at their house or calling them unannounced. They don't know who you are. They don't have a relationship with you. They're going to offer some resistance. It's normal, it's expected, and you shouldn't act as if you're surprised, especially in today's age. People are suspicious of strangers, so they're going to have some pushback. But the thing is, and the thing you got to do, is you have to be prepared to overcome that natural resistance against a fear or suspicion. And the way that you do it is you sell the appointment, because that's ultimately the fear they're seeing. It's not that I don't know if I can afford this, it's I don't know who you are and I don't want to waste my time. So one of the things we do at the door or when we're setting the appointment is we say, whatever they say, it's about price, it's about I'm busy. It's generally the same thing. It's what we call the ask method. We answer the objection, we sell the appointment, and then we close to get into the door to set the appointment. So it sounds something like this. Yeah, what's the price? How much does this cost? Hey, good question, Mrs. Prospect. All I need is 5 minutes for me to show you how this program works, and what you decide to do with it is entirely up to you. Why don't we sit out in the porch, or should I come in? So what did I do here? I didn't address the price. I complimented her and said, that's a good question. And then I went into selling why we need to do the appointment. My job is just to deliver this information. What you do with it's entirely up to you. So I sell them on, hey, I'm just doing my job. It just takes 5 minutes. Sometimes I'll insert that in. And then I say, what you do with it's up to you. It's a great way to say there's no obligation. You don't have to buy from me. There's no risks, right? Because that's what people are worried about. And then the closing technique is, do you want to sit out in the porch or should I come in? And so I'll offer them a yes to the porch or a yes to coming in. If I'm on the phone, everything I said in that script would be the same except the close. I would offer 2 different appointments. Should I come over at 2 o'clock or does 10 work better? Do you say yes to this time or do you say yes to that time? Notice I'm framing the question where yes is the only answer, and I'm going to get more appointments booked. And I'm going to get into more doors by doing that. Very valuable lesson. But as soon as I start saying, well, you know, the price, it can be as low as $2, can be as high as $200. It's just going to depend on me asking you some health questions and then showing you how these whole life programs work, that rates never go. At this point, they don't trust you because they're feeling sold. It's funny. They kind of, by asking that question, are asked to be sold, but because they don't know who you are at the door on the phone, they're going to be much more sensitive to the fact that you're appearing to sell them and then shut you down that much more. So we have to just bypass that and understand that we're speaking not to the spoken objection, which many times is just a smokescreen. We're speaking to the unspoken objection of just general sales resistance. Okay. Now, number 7 on the list here is, yes, setting appointments by phone. That is optional. You don't have to set appointments by phone to be successful selling final expense in person. It certainly helps. There's an argument to be made with efficiency. If you wake up the next morning, you got 3, 4, 5 plus appointments booked, that's a cool thing. And in some sense, like what we do at the Ford Insurance Group, we outsource the appointment setting to some degree. We have several appointment setters that will take an agent's leads and set appointments for them. So appointment setting is something you don't have to do, but there is one strategy you absolutely have to do if you want to have long-term success in this business, and that is knocking on the door. There is no way, with the lack of people picking up the phone these days, that you can exclusively rely on appointment setting to run your final expense business. In other words, to get the most out of every dollar you invest in your final expense leads, you have to door knock your prospects, especially the ones that never pick up the phone, which sometimes can be a quarter to up to a half of the leads if you're even working the better leads. And the other thing too is that by door knocking, you are putting yourself in the position to not only speak to more people, because some people just will never answer the phone, but people at the door are more forgiving. They're more understanding, they're more civil than they are over the phone exclusively. Again, I was talking to an agent earlier, Alec. He started in the business with another IMO selling over the phone, did not like it, very impersonal, very frustrating experience. But as soon as he transitioned with us, he realized that face-to-face was his thing. And he found that by door knocking his clients and seeing people in person, that people were way more forgiving. They didn't push back nearly as much. And it was a much more positive experience. And he talked to more people and got more sales because of it than just relying on telesales. Not that telesales is a failed model at all, but there is definitely a difference. And for the face-to-face agent, door knocking provides a unique opportunity to convert more of your leads into appointments than what you would ever get by simply dialing over the phone. So bottom line, door knocking your leads, not cold door knocking, but door knocking your leads is non-negotiable. You have to do that if you're going to have any semblance of success in this business. Number 8 on the list here. There are 2 ways to start in the final expense face-to-face business. The first way, or one way, is to start in what we call a captive environment. So a captive environment is where you have one carrier, generally speaking. You have one company, one set of underwriting standards for that company, and you're basically a company person. You push the product of that particular company, and you have no other carrier options besides that. There are pros and cons to that, of which we'll get into. Actually, next week, we're going to do a whole training on differences between broker and captive. The second option is what we would call either the independent or the broker model. Both are interchangeable descriptions. And the broker or independent model relies on the agent having access to multiple carriers so that you're not pushing product, but you're selecting a carrier that's best situated for the client based off of their budget and more or less based off of the health of the client. My opinion, and this is being an agent since 2011, I never wanted to be a product pusher. I wanted to be a problem solver. And I felt like the best way to solve problems was to have options for our clients. And as you dig into the final expense arena, what you'll discover is not every carrier has the same standards for underwriting. Some carriers are very liberal with their health underwriting. Others are very tight, but maybe they have better prices. But either way, what I don't want to do intentionally is offer an inferior option to my client as far as the amount of coverage and the quality of the coverage. Case in point, there are companies out there that you have heard of that are captive. Think of the ones that are just one company solutions, and they can't cover certain issues like COPD, for example, and other ones too, that broker companies or broker agents have access to with companies that do cover that. So as a captive agent, I might have to sell a product that I know I could do better if I was an independent agent on. And I have to sell them and push the product on them despite the shortcomings of said product. And so there's I wouldn't say it's so much of a moral argument or an ethical argument. It may turn into that for the agent, but there's always that lingering reality in the back of your mind as a captive agent that you're not serving your clients the best that you can. And there's a bigger problem as a captive agent that you have to realize is that you have to operate in this business as if another agent is coming behind you in the next 90 days. What I tell my agents is, look, you need to sell as if yours truly, El Jefe, Dave Duford, is coming behind you, and I'm going to do anything at all possible to replace that piece of business to get your client the best deal that they can. And it may or may not happen, but acting as if it will is a good exercise because you start to question not just how you sell. Am I selling with too much pressure? Am I selling something that's affordable? But you also ask yourself, am I making sure to sell the best product to my client that actually covers the client fully? I can't tell you probably hundreds of cases I've replaced of agents who sold shoddy products many times with these captive companies simply because they refuse to be brokers and offer their clients the best combination of price or coverage. So being a broker is my personal preference. I want to have options to get my clients not only the best combination of price or coverage, but to lower as much as possible lapses because the product was too expensive and replacements based off of quality because I have a limitation of options. What you'll find if you go to captive route many times is that you keep less of your business and you don't sell as much because you don't have options. So you end up getting paid less and getting less money off of each sale because there's always a built-in amount of churn and replacement off the business. Number 9 on the list here is mentorship is the X factor in in-person training. Again, if you're new here, I always like telling the story because we're still learning in business and how to improve and grow. And one of the things that I stumbled across that I always really pushed away was the vital importance of one-on-one coaching calls, role playing, and mentorship. We've always been focused on training here at the Ford Insurance Group. It's always been my differentiating factor as a business. We've always had excellent support. People can get in touch with me. I answer questions quickly. We've had amazing group training calls. But what I realized going into the end of last year was that there was extreme shortcomings in what you could do with a group-based approach to training. There are just some things, y'all, in the business of final expense face-to-face that are better taught on a one-on-one role-playing call. And so that's why we implemented mentors in our agents who have a total of 2 face-to-face mentors and 1 face-to-face, 1 telesales final expense mentor. And every agent that joins Forward Insurance Group is required to go through mentorship in order to work with us. If they don't make it, or if they're not committed to it, we fire them, we get rid of them, because we know well-trained agents perform the best. And what mentorship has done is it has raised the average success rate precipitously than what we had before, because some agents would have confidence issues, or they were making mistakes that you just can't discern for yourself. There's just some things a third-party person can observe, identify, and help you correct that you can never do on your own. And having that kind of mentorship embedded in the process of learning the business heightens and scales your ability to climb the learning curve much faster. So for me, mentorship is non-negotiable now. It absolutely makes a tremendous and profound impact. And every single agent that we brought into this process can't say enough at how well it has worked and how much of a difference it's made. So make sure that you're getting mentorship. And again, not just group calls. Everybody's got videos now, that's for sure. But we're talking about actual one-on-one mentorship that's embedded and a natural part of the program. You don't want to do without it. It's that important, as I have discovered and thought really before the beginning of this year was just optional. And then last but not least here is don't reinvent the wheel. Ladies and gentlemen, final expense, face-to-face, it's a traditional business model. It's a classic business model. It's a boring business model. It is not something that you have to think that much about in order to recreate to make successful. I started the business in 2011. We're talking 12 years ago. We're doing the same thing in 2023 as I did in 2011. The prospects are the same. The lead generation strategy is the same. The sales process is the same. You don't have to come into this with any creativity. In some ways, creativity gets in the way. It bogs you down. It slows you down. It takes away your momentum. You need to be willing and humble to follow a system that's proven to work. And the final expense face-to-face sales system is decades old, probably older than I am. I'm 38. And so what does that mean? Whatever agency you join to sell face-to-face final expense in, do what they teach. Adhere to their system. If it's proven to work and they've got track records, humble yourself and follow what you're being told. Don't feel like you got to go get some brand spanking new lead or some strategy that's unheard of, or do your own script. That is a short or a fast track to failure in this very old and boring business model. But that is exactly what makes it appealing, is that you don't have to be creative. You just have to be humble, and you have to work hard and follow the system. Let's go through the list again of the 10 things necessary for success and tips for face-to-face final expense agents. 1, hard work outranks sales skills. Work hard and commit to working hard if you want to have success. Certainly sales skills matter, but if you don't have the work ethic, it's all for naught. Number 2, leads are your life source. In final expense, you're likely going to be getting direct mail or Facebook leads. Buy them and invest in them. They are an investment. They are not a cost. If you don't have leads, you don't have a business. Number 3, your prospecting skill set, your ability to door knock, set appointments, is more important than your presentation skills. Listen to what my dad said, who sold his business early on in his life. Half the battle is about getting in the door. And if you are good at door knocking and appointment setting, you likely will get more sales than if you weren't. Number 4, confidence in presentation is key. Be assumptive in your language patterns. Don't insert doubt. This is why having a mentor is really good, because they can identify the language patterns that may sound wishy-washy that signal to your clients that you're not convicted. Be convicted in what you sell and make sure it comes out in how you say what you say. Number 5, non-negotiable for full-time agents, 15 appointments every week. Any less than that, and you probably will have a lot more ebbs and flows in your success. Try to do more than 15, really, if you really want to, because 15 is the minimum. It's the floor. No less than 15 completed appointments a week if you want consistency in sales results. Don't sell the product when you're setting the appointment or door knocking. Sell the appointment. Don't get lulled into the idea that you have to sell how great your product is. Your clients don't know who you are, and if they don't know who you are, they won't believe anything you're saying. But you have to sell the appointment, because that's where the resistance originates from, as they don't know who you are. You're a stranger, so you have to sell them on you, and all the time you need is 5 minutes, and what they do with it's up to them. And then when you're in the door, start to sell the product. Number 7, setting appointments by phone is optional. Door knocking is not. You have to door knock in the final expense face-to-face game to get results. And when I say door knock your leads. You don't have to cold door knock to be successful. You could get sales that way, but setting appointments only is a quick way to fail in this business. Don't do it. Number 8, be a broker, not a captive agent. That's what I recommend for most agents. Having one company is a great way to lose out on sales and to lose sales to brokers who have options that are more competitive on price and underwriting and allow them to keep more of their business. Go the broker route, not the captive route. Number 9, mentorship is the X factor. If there's any results that I've seen in the last couple of months since we started the mentorship program, is that more agents are more successful with a tenured coach, not just like taking their phone calls here and there, but training them one-on-one multiple times a day for the first week or two to develop them into the best version of themselves that they can be. It is the X factor to speed up your success in the business. And if there's any evidence in the success we've had, it definitely works. And last but not least here, humble yourself. Don't reinvent the process. We know what works. The agencies that have been doing face-to-face final expense out there for years, they know what works. Just follow their system, humble yourself, and allow yourself to learn what works. And those are my 10 tips for success in face-to-face final expense. If you're interested in joining DeFord Insurance Group, go to daviddeford.com, click the FAQ link at the top to learn more. Make sure you hit the testimonial link too if you'd like some case studies and testimonials